Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last day of Creighton University's celebration of National Public Health Week. Today, I'm joined with April Dixon, NPH, the health educator for Creighton University's School of Medicine's Tobacco Prevention and Community Outreach. She's also an alum of the Creighton NPH program. Yay! Today, she's talking about an issue that's likely on the minds of many of you, public health emergency preparedness. She's going to start off by giving us an overview of the field, and then she'll share some insights about her current work. She has been able to adeptly merge her interest in working with faith communities, PE, HP, and applying culturally humble practices together. So April, welcome. Thanks for coming today. Can you introduce yourself? Can you tell us a little bit about your current role at the medical school and the things you've been involved in?
Sure, thanks, LaShawn. Again, April Dixon. I am a health educator with Creighton University. I've been here for about 13 years and held a lot of different positions. Currently, I work in tobacco prevention. I work with a lot of coalitions within the community. The focus that we are on right now is tobacco prevention in the community. We work with a lot of Metro Omaha coalitions. Right now, the focus, as you can imagine, is on vaping. We do a lot in the community. My focus is on tobacco retailer compliance checks as well as advertising. But we are working with current local legislators about getting the vaping rules added to the Clean Indoor Air Act. In addition, we're working on a lot of stuff within the community. So I enjoy being in tobacco prevention, but I also found an interest in public health preparedness. And so I'm really excited about being able to talk about that today.
Wow, April, thanks for sharing that background with us about your job. So I just want to say for the folks who are watching, as a side note, if you haven't seen it, please take a look at April's awesome Facebook Live lecture about vaping. And our post today will have a link at the bottom of the screen so you can click on it and find it. It was really excellent. We did it back in the fall. We had some really great questions and a lot of really good views since the event happened, and we're really grateful that you did that. So just a little plug for her vaping lecture. So you mentioned earlier, as I know, because I was one of your former faculty, hello, that you're a Creighton NPH alum. What did you do your practicum about? I think it was about public health emergency preparedness, correct? So can you tell us a little bit about that, and in case the audience is new to that idea?
Sure, I'd love to. First of all, I really had an interest in it. People were telling me I should probably do something within tobacco prevention or cardiovascular disease health. I was kind of a maverick. I wanted to do something a little bit different, something I had an interest in because of my history. I'm a Air Force veteran. And also I work within the community. My husband and I we pastor a church here in the local community. And so one of the things I wanted to do is try and marry those two interests that I have and see how we can actually maybe engage the local community in public health in a way that would probably benefit people in underserved or under-resourced communities. So I wanted to marry, you know, my little bit of experience with law enforcement, security, and emergency management that I have, and kind of marry that into faith-based and how faith-based can kind of work together. So public health emergency preparedness is really important, as we can see now with the current situation that we're in. A little preparedness would really help. Right now, we're dealing with something with the COVID-19 that we've never had to deal with before. When I was doing the practicum, I was focusing on, you know, basically the CIND, which is community emergency and natural disasters. Right now, we're going through a community emergency. Natural disasters are a little bit different. You know, when you have a natural disaster, they usually want you to have something prepared, really any household, for 72 hours. Whereas right now, we're looking at the COVID-19, which could probably carry on for a couple of months. And how do underserved areas, how do they deal with that? How do they prepare for that? Having organizations and community faith-based groups actually kind of be prepared for that, to kind of reach out and help is really important. So the crux of my practicum was basically kind of reaching out to other cities and counties that were similar to Omaha and Douglas County in Nebraska here, and find out what they did. How did they kind of react? What resources did they have? And so I received a lot of help from my site manager with the Douglas County Emergency Management Organization, who kind of led me through the process of how it's worked here, and then I was able to reach out and get more information. So a lot of the work that I did was basically contacting them, finding out what they did, getting resources, and then finding out what we had here. One of the things that came out of it was a SIND survey, or an assessment that I created and helped with the help of the emergency management site coordinator. And I went out to the different churches and we did assessments of their churches, what resources they had, how they can help out. And then also we developed messaging for their congregants and the surrounding communities to kind of help with that. The churches are really helpful. They have a lot of people that are in the pews, but also have talents that go beyond choir or ministry or something like that. You have retired nurses, you have individuals in the community that work in construction, you have daycare providers, people that can kind of step up and help out in times of emergency. And so that's basically what I was doing with the SIND survey, or the SIND practicum. But public health emergency preparedness is really important. There are so many different avenues that we can utilize, or that we have to utilize, and certain things that we can do to prepare ourselves and help prepare others in underserved communities. We're finding out now that no matter where you're at, especially with COVID-19, whether you have a job or you don't have a job, or you have a lot of resources, it can be really taxing on families and communities. So having that preparedness is really important.
Okay, April, that's a really helpful way to help us get started to think about this. So thanks for that summary, and thank you for your service. So I think some of the folks in our audience who are students will be familiar with some of these ideas, but if you're new or you want to learn more, we'll also have some links in our posts that connect you with the CDC's public health emergency preparedness information, and also the American Public Health Association's Get Ready handouts. Those are really good places to get started. They've got some tools to help you think about personally and in your community how you can start to prepare yourself for all kinds of emergency situations, both natural disasters and more of what we're dealing with right now. There's also a pretty good link in the National Public Health Week website about COVID-19 and what's going on there. So April, you mentioned that you've got a few different hats that you wear. You wear a hat as a pastor, you wear a hat in the medical school, you're a public health professional. And so this has really given you an opportunity to connect with a really diverse range of stakeholders. And you've got some really meaningful relationships with them. And those relationships have become important right now during the coronavirus time, as you've been pulled into to do some different kinds of projects that connect your practicum with some of the other work you do. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're currently working on?
Yes. So I work and live in a under-resourced community. My church is located in one of the poorest parts of Omaha here. And so it was, for me, it was really easy to kind of make the connection, to realizing that we wouldn't really have resources if something really devastating happened to our community. So as I did the SIND, the Community Emergency Natural Disaster Survey and Assessment, and I was working with the local faith-based organizations, I was able to do some presentations about the community. One of the organizations, the Empowerment Village, they actually, Empowerment Network, actually came to me and asked me to do a presentation. And so through that connection, we had quite a few churches that were there, some organizations, law enforcement, some of the health professionals were there for that meeting. It started a dialogue, and I was able to kind of come back for their summit at the end of 2019 and do a full group kind of discussion about it. We invited individuals to come in, we did an assessment there. So that's where we kind of started off with this last year. This year, with a lot of the COVID response, I was kind of brought back into a couple of Zoom meetings. We had some discussions. Even though we're doing a lot of, right now in the moment reaction to what's going on, there's still an interest in doing preparedness. And so my part of the discussion was bringing in what I did, doing the assessments and how the church can prepare for future events. And so I'm hoping this is kind of opening up a little bit more of a dialogue. In our community, a lot of the churches really didn't work together. They really had a hard time coming together. So there's good and bad to this. We've actually kind of created some kind of dialogue. There's a weekly discussion that they normally have, and if it's not a discussion, information is sent out weekly to all the churches. They connect with the media, they connect with local county government, county and local government organizations to get the information out so that we can help service our congregants and also the individuals that are within our neighborhoods. So I've seen a big increase in a lot of the interest in working together. And that's really, really important because you have to have that collaboration. You have to have that dialogue. And before this, we really did not have that. So I'm seeing a lot that's coming out of this. I'm hoping that the faith-based community can continue the work that they're doing, that we're doing. They're opening up their churches, they're going online, they're reaching further than they were when they were in the building, partnering with the schools to provide food, easy access. A lot of kids, if they can't get to the schools, they can get to their local churches. If they need resources or information, some churches are opening up their door to people to come in and speak. So it's kind of a really, really beautiful result of something that started off so horrible. So I'm seeing the change in the community, and I'm really excited to be a part of it.
Thanks for that answer, April. And thanks for sort of ending that answer with a positive note. I know this is a really difficult and challenging times for folks. They're really trying to find their way and trying to make it through this crisis. And it sounds like this coronavirus situation has really brought out the best in this community. Some of the assets that we already knew were there have been really amplified, sounds like, through the work that you're doing with the folks and the work that they're doing around the community. So with that in mind, I want to ask you two more final questions. And so the first one is, so for those who are thinking about working with faith communities in their own towns, wherever they're from, wherever they live, how might they get started with doing some public health work, whether it's emergency preparedness or some other topic? How could they get started with working with the community? Do you have any advice for working with faith communities?
Yes, I think a good way to actually get started, if you're interested in working in the faith-based community and you have that desire to work in public health emergency preparedness, is to actually get involved with, if you're within a ministry or want to get involved within the ministry, definitely come to some meetings. In our community, a lot of community opportunities to meet with faith-based community, law enforcement, and healthcare. There's a couple of coalitions that I work with that tie in basically everybody in the community. So I like to reach out to individuals in those groups, and that really helped me with the practicum because I had that experience and my face was there. So people knew basically about me, about who I worked with. They were comfortable with me. And sometimes it takes a little bit of work to get in there. Sometimes you may have to go to a couple of meetings. You can't just pop in there and expect everybody to jump on board with your ideas or your interests. So sometimes it may take a little bit of working with them and finding out what they do, what their interests are, and then aligning up with that. And then bringing in, slowly as you can, whatever it is that you're trying to engage them in and work with the community with. So it may take a little bit, but reaching out to these organizations and individuals in the community are really helpful. For the public health emergency management, within my practicum, I had to work with Douglas County Emergency Management, and I had to kind of get a little bit more of an understanding. My understanding was based on my experience working with Air Force and security forces, law enforcement, and then actually with air-based response resource. So I had a lot of experience on that end, but I didn't have any experience on local communities and what that looked like. So I did reach out to them. It was really helpful. I had a really good site coordinator that was excited because they have been trying to work with faith-based communities and get them more involved. So when I worked with that organization, they were right on top of it. They wanted to work with me. They're excited. And we were able to kind of work together and figure out what we needed, which would help them and then also help the community. So that's where I gained a lot of my understanding about public health, emergency preparedness, and disaster preparedness.
Okay, April, it sounds like communication's important. Being there, being present sounds really important. Asking questions when you don't know, I guess, is another thing that's always important. Using skills you've got from somewhere else sounds like important. So you were able to use your military background and the work that you had done there to help you think about the kinds of questions to ask in the community, sounds like. So for students who are watching this, who are interested in getting into public health emergency preparedness or interested in working in faith communities, you've got a lot of really good examples and advice here from Ms. Dixon. And so with that, I want to say how encouraging and exciting and cutting edge this work is and how much we appreciate you're spending the time talking to us today. We are all really grateful to you for both the work you've done at the Highlander, like with your Facebook Live and some of the other community work that you've been doing with us, but also just grateful for you as an alum for continuing to do this good work and being a great model alum of our NPH program. So if you're interested in learning more, at the bottom of the link, of the link for this video, you'll also see some links to some of the public health and CDC and other resources that we mentioned earlier in the talk. So take a look and see if there's anything that you can use in your community, but especially now there may be some useful gems that you can use to start to help the folks in your community begin to make a plan for the next time something happens or even something they can do right now. So thank you again, April, and everyone have a great day.